The Toronto Blue Jays have always kind of felt like they were good, not great, but they looked great against the Yankees. So how for real is this? How seriously should we be taking it? And who cares? Should we just be enjoying it? I think if nothing else, it is time to talk a little bit more seriously about the Toronto Blue Jays after their series sweep of the New York Yankees. So, the Toronto Blue Jays are now first place in the American League East. It is the first time that they have been in first place this late into the season since 2016. This is the most wins they have had through this many games since 1993. So, things are going well, is basically what I'm trying to tell you with this. This team is doing a whole lot right. And this series is a great chance to really just celebrate what is happening here. Because, are there holes you can poke into things? Absolutely there are. But Blue Jays fans, we know, you can see, and look, I'm not hiding it. You got the where are we? Hat in the background there. This is the team I follow, right? And so there is obviously a lot of frustration that comes with that. And there's been a lot of disappointment in most of our lifetimes watching the Blue Jays. So embrace this. This was such an amazing time to be a Blue Jays fan and to be able to time it up almost perfectly where you are getting that lull in hockey and everything. And now, hey, here come the Yankees. And more importantly, here come the Blue Jays. To do this while the entire nation is basically ready to watch is a really, really great thing for just the popularity of this team, for the excitement level around this team and all of that, as someone who does do a lot of the mainstream media sports talking and on this podcast as well, it is a lot more fun when the Blue Jays are fun this time of year, and it really opens things up. You think about where this team was 365 days ago. We were getting ready for a Blue Jays sell-off at the trade deadline and just kind of hoping that maybe a couple of young pieces start to click a little bit. But I do think that that was something that was able to set a foundation for this team because it gave a lot of opportunities to guys like Will Wagner, guys more importantly like Addison Barger and Ernie Clement, and just more consistent opportunities for these players. And look, I will be the first to admit I was not one who was overly enthused about all of this, and I was not one who was going to assume that, okay, well, they had a good couple of weeks against Seattle and whatever, but it'll calm down, and it hasn't really. And I think that stretch last year, painful as it was a time for Barger to understand that there were adjustments that needed to be made. It was a time for Ernie Clement to kind of figure out what he was doing as a hitter, and a time for Will Wagner to get a few more reps as a big league hitter and get some opportunities in there as well, and just allowed the rest of this team to see okay, pressure is off. What's working and what isn't. And I think that type of a thing is valuable. I'm not saying that you should just alternate wins, or good year, bad year, good year, bad year, because you want to see, okay, what is really working? You tend to just want to figure out what's working and have it work. But the Blue Jays, I think, utilized last year to the best of their capabilities and have set themselves up in a very strong way for 2025 now. And the cool thing about everything that the Jays are doing at this particular time is this 4-game sweep happens without Bo Bichette in the lineup. And they have a team that is in first place while Dalton Varsho, who was their best player for a little bit, has been injured. And they have got, to be perfectly frank, injury or not, nothing from their biggest free agent acquisition, Anthony Santander, this season. And so for them to be able to have these types of performances while you are missing one of your more consistent hitters, while you are missing a guy who turned into a bit of a spark plug for your team this season, and a guy who was supposed to be a big difference maker in the middle of your lineup, is a really, really good thing. And if nothing else, it allows you to not rush these guys back and let them fully get set up. Give Bo Bichette an extra couple of days in July, because apparently September is going to mean something now for this team. So this is a fantastic stretch for the Blue Jays. The one thing I would say is not to get negative about it at all, but do not treat that series like it was the World Series. That was an excellent sweep. It is the first time they've done that to the Yankees in 4 games in franchise history. Embrace it, enjoy it, do all of those things. Do not waste it, because now you have a series against the Angels, and the last time you had a series against the Angels, coming off of what was a pretty good series, you wasted it, and it was right back down to where you were before. This is a time to keep that foot on the gas and just keep rolling. This is not a good Angels baseball team that the Blue Jays are facing, and they're probably not going to face another good team between now and the All-Star break. So again, embrace this, but build off of it. Don't let this be the okay, well, yeah, that was great. This shouldn't be the high point. This is the building point. This is not the peak of what you want this season to be for the Toronto Blue Jays. And I think one way you can help that is making a trade. I think that this team has shown that they deserve the investment of a big-time move from this front office. Now, it is a little bit tricky when you do that because obviously things are going well for this baseball team at this point. And one of the things that was talked about, I thought Blake Murphy made an excellent point when he was chatting with Dan Shulman on Blue Jays Talk the other day, saying like right now, like you have your very good players at the top, and Springer is playing at a very good player level, as is Vlad Guerrero Jr., but one thing that you really have is just no bad players in your lineup. Everyone is contributing in their own way. And so to be able to rely on that has been very, very helpful for this team, but they are still not perfect. And so you do have to find a way to improve this while not upsetting the balance. And we have seen this front office overcorrect on things at times, right? You get a defensive blunder in center field that is kind of the big inciting moment of blowing an 8-1 lead against the Seattle Mariners. So you overcompensate and go out and address defense by trading Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and Gabby Moreno for Dalton Varsho. And now all of a sudden you've gone 3 years and you haven't been able to hit a thing. So don't just say, okay, yeah, things are going great, but we need a starter. Okay, here's 5 guys, and there's Sandy Alcantara. It doesn't need to be that, but this team does need to, I think, really take advantage of the opportunity that is here. And I think really kind of double down on what you have and show that locker room, look, we believe what's happening here. We trust you guys, and we are going to make a push to be competitive this season and really make that type of a charge here. And I think that it's something that like being able to listen in podcasts and also being able to interview a couple of people who were involved in the 2015 Blue Jays. When they went out and acquired Troy Tulowitzki and then David Price, they basically just didn't lose from that point on. And if you remember at the time of the Tulo trade, the Blue Jays were below 500, I think. Like they were a 40-41 team, if I'm not mistaken, when the Reyes trade gets made after a couple of rough defensive outings from him. Tulo comes in and then they acquire David Price, and all of a sudden this team just has this belief like, look, we're really good, so let's go do this thing. And I think that this team deserves that type of a move. And I don't know if it is whatever the 2025 version of Tulo and David Price is, but I think they do deserve that type of a boost and that type of an investment from the front office, because not only is this team playing well, but everything is set up in a way that I don't know if it will be from here on in. The Baltimore Orioles, I think, really soundly screwed up this offseason. But you look at the talent they have, they're not going to be this bad again. At least I wouldn't be betting on it. The Boston Red Sox, it seems like clubhouse-wise, maybe there was a little addition by subtraction going on with the Devers thing, and I get that they have been a bit more about flying those financial responsibility banners and everything like that, but they're a team that is going to have mucho dinero to spend in the offseason. So I would assume that we are going to see better versions of the Red Sox going forward. The Rays aren't going to be playing in a minor league ballpark for the rest of time, and the Yankees are going to have Garrett Cole back next year, and will probably address the offense in maybe a more meaningful way as early as this month. So take advantage of the opportunity while you have it, because you can go through the rest of the American League East and say, look, none of these teams are going to be this vulnerable again. This is the Blue Jays' opportunity to really try to take advantage. I think that, again, I have kind of been saying for a bit that I want Luis Robert, and I understand it is not going well for him in Chicago, but I think, like, who would it be going well there for? But you do have to kind of look at, okay, well, now I'm not saying, well, we can't go out and get a guy who a couple years ago looked like one of the best players in baseball because we have Miles Straw, and we can't go get an all-star in Ryan McMahon because we have Will Wagner hitting 200 at third base. But or at when everyone's healthy, Ernie Clement over at third base. I do think, though, there are still improvements that can be made to this lineup and to this roster. I think while it was great having the production of Davis Schneider the last couple of days, I think that a real power hitting right-handed bat off the bench is a really important thing for how lefty dominant this lineup can be at times. I think having like that real big off the bench pinch hit situation guy is a very valuable thing to this team. I do think that more starting pitching depth is certainly required, and if you wanted to get that on the high end, I wouldn't mind. And this bullpen needs help. That would probably be the first place you would start, is that the bullpen really seriously needs some help back there. So I think you can go like offense, starting, bullpen. All three phases need a little bit of a boost right now, but it does not seem like it is like the major surgery that might have been needed a little bit ago. So I think that this is a time for the Blue Jays to really take advantage of an amazing opportunity and take advantage of the good vibes you have going on in that clubhouse right now. We're going to talk about one part of the Blue Jays that doesn't get enough credit here in just a second, but I do want to ask if you could share this episode wherever you are viewing it right now or listening to it. Just hit that share button. Help spread the word of Couch Potato Diary. Share it with your friends and a couple people you don't like just to throw them off. That would really help grow this thing as we're trying to continue what's been a pretty good progression here over the last little month at Couch Potato Diary. So one part of this Blue Jays team that doesn't get enough credit, I think, in this run is the managing of John Schneider. He has been, I think, everything this team would need going into this season. And he has taken a lot of flack for certain decisions that have been made. I thought that the organization threw him under the bus after the decision against the Twins, pulling Barrios, also pulling Gosman the year before. And, manager's thing. I thought it was very cowardly of the front office when everyone knows that this is now how organizations are structured, and it is analytics departments and everything like that. And John Schneider, I think, kind of wore a lot of those and is now coaching his ass off. And I still think that there is a bit of a collaboration going, but I don't think it's the analytics department that's doing a whole lot of it, because any analytics department that would suggest sacrifice bunts and things like that would be shot into the sun. Like that's just not how that world operates. And so I think the Jays are finding a good kind of natural spot now with analytics and traditional baseball thinking. And they've shown the ability to pivot. There was a little bit in a Blue Jays group chat. There was a little bit of frustration when Vlad was moved up to hit number 2. The analytics side of this is you actually want your best hitter in that number 2 slot because he is only hitting number 2 once in a game. After that, everything is all over the place, right? And so as the number 2 hitter, you at least have an opportunity in the first inning with him to have a runner on and him to be able to drive a run in. But then after that, you position him in a way where you are going to presumably get extra at-bats out of him as the season goes on because he is hitting higher up in the lineup, right? Like that's just how lineups work. So you want your best hitter in that 2 hole because he is going to get even like 70 or 80 extra at-bats, you would presume, than the number 3 guy just as the season rolls along. And so you're trying to kind of match it up and maximize it that way. But he wasn't hitting very well in that spot. He was hitting much better in the 3 hole. So they just moved him and put him back, and it has been very, very effective. And they have used hit and run and been aggressive on the bases and been using sack bunts. And that is not a strategy that I celebrate, but it has been working for this team. And so I think Schneider has done just unbelievable work in finding where everyone's strengths are, where everyone is comfortable, and how to maximize them that way. I think he has played the platoons really well on the offensive side. I think he has put everyone in a position in the order to kind of maximize what they can do. And no, like you're not going to, okay, first and second, nobody out, up comes Alejandro Kirk, we're going to sack bunt this guy. No, it's not just that, but when it gets down to the bottom of the lineup and all of a sudden it's Leo Jimenez who's having trouble hitting his weight, then yeah, we're going to sack Bunt in that spot and we're going to bring Lucas up and he's going to take advantage, and then Springer really is going to take advantage. I think that he has done a very good job of recognizing the strengths and weaknesses of everyone in this lineup and putting them in the optimal spot to succeed. I think he's done great with that, and the bullpen and the rotation, he has been a wizard, I think, all year long. And if you are a longtime consumer of my content, you will know that Pete Walker is celebrated on Couch Potato Diary. I think that he is the best pitching coach in baseball with what they've been able to get out of a number of different guys over the years, and I think that is something that the Blue Jays should try to maximize a little bit more. But I think the combination of now Schneider and Pete Walker has really helped to figure out where all these pieces fit. Like, they have basically, until the last like couple of weeks, they have had 4 starting pitchers, you know? Like, they were able to get some good innings out of different guys at different points, but for all intents and purposes, that 5th spot in the rotation every time around has been a bullpen game. And sometimes they had to overuse guys, and that has led to a few problems. But for the most part, Schneider, I think, has done a very good job of trusting his pitchers to get out of some jams. That is the spot where I think he maybe needs to pull back just a little bit. I think he trusts some of his starters a little bit too much. But even the game the other day, like Bassett, trying to work through some things, it just wasn't happening. Maybe you could have pulled him a batter or two earlier, but there was a couple of innings where if you would have done that, maybe you're set up in a bad spot and he's able to battle through it. I think that he has done a good job of kind of recognizing that and knowing what buttons to push when. I thought it was a little bit too much for Jimmy Garcia and for Hoffman and for all of those guys throughout the lineup or in that bullpen early on in the year. But those were the types of performances they needed at that time. And now there have been a couple of shaky performances, but I think being able to manage the bullpen on the 4 days that you have an actual starter and then being able to maximize it when there is a bullpen day, I think he's done a fantastic job with that. So I think John Schneider deserves a lot of credit. Austin Scott in the YouTube chat was at the game last night. Place was electric. That is another part of all of this. Like, the Blue Jays, in the entire time that I was growing up, the Blue Jays weren't very good. And so you watch, like, the anniversary of Delgado hitting the 4 home runs to get to 300 was just the other day. And so I saw the clip, and there are full sections of the Rogers Center that are empty in the era where the diamond looked like they just spray painted on concrete to get out there. And so I think Blue Jays fans kind of got this reputation of, it's a hockey city, whatever. But like 2015, maybe went overboard with throwing a few things on the field, but I think that really reminded people that this can be a very passionate fan base, and the Rogers Center can be an electric place. And now this is the first time that they are really good with the improvements that have been made to the atmosphere of that ballpark and just the overall aesthetic as well. And so to give this fan base now something a little prettier to cheer in, I think that is really going to drive that up. But yeah, Austin, the electricity in that place when it is really going is second to none. And I think a few more people are going to recognize that. Like, I lived in Toronto for a couple of years. It is not a couple of years that a lot of people are going to remember fondly for the Blue Jays, although I was there when Bautista hit 50. But even just being there for a couple of Yankee games and being there when AJ Burnett came back to face the Blue Jays and it was him against Roy Halladay and just the buzz in the building there and like different opening days and everything like that, it is just different than almost any other sporting atmosphere when you get the ballpark that is buzzing in that way. So a credit to the Jays fans who were all over it and helping get that Blue Jays team across the finish line in a couple of those games, including Austin, who deserves some credit for being a part of the electric atmosphere. And hopefully it only gets better as the season rolls along. So look, things are going great, and I'm not even cautiously optimistic anymore. I am optimistic, and I am like, let's go. Let's video game this and just start like really trying to capitalize on what is a fantastic baseball team right now.